Hey everyone, welcome back to Halls of Torment. So today we're going to do the officially unofficial character tier list. As you can see, I've got all the characters ready to go down the bottom here. So for this tier list, we're going to consider a few things: the early game power, the mid to late game power, the different sort of builds that are available on these characters and how they scale up. We're also going to consider the fun factor, as well as how good these characters are without any shards and with a whole bunch of torment shards. Just for a bit of context, guys, I've played this game for roughly 390 hours now. I've done many builds across all the different characters. I've currently got 2100 shards stacked up. So that's sort of the context on where we're coming from here. If you enjoyed the video at all, guys, hit like and subscribe for me. So let's start with the Archer. Archer is a great early game character, can scale movement speed and crit. So it's a pretty strong character, can absolutely demolish the early to mid game here. It does have the fun factor too. Being able to move around the map really fast is really fun in this game. However, the Archer really does suffer from a couple of problems here, and namely going up above a certain torment range, you have to start putting on the artifacts that totally cripple your movement speed, which actually kind of really hurts the Archer here. And not only that, the Archer scales up its defense and block pretty in a pretty weak manner, so it's actually kind of tricky to build for high torment especially if you don't have a big stack of shards to work with. To that end, I'm actually going to put him over here in B tier to begin with. Now, I can understand if you wanted to put him up here in A tier because he's a pretty strong character. However, for this tier list, we are going to use the entire range here, right? So I think it's pretty good to put the Archer over here in the mid tier. Okay, Beast Huntress is up next. So the Beast Huntress has some interesting scaling she can do with physical damage. And right now in the game, physical damage is really strong. So it is not a terrible choice. Actually gets movement speed scaling as well. So it does kind of suffer from some of the same things that the Archer does. The high torment artifacts can totally cripple the extra movement speed you get. Now, for me personally, I don't really like the Hound all that much. I think summons in this game are really weak. To that end, it's kind of a mixed character here. Can be really good with some of the builds, can be kind of bad with some of the builds. Now, if you have a huge stack of Torment Shards to really buff up stuff like area and damage, yeah, this character can be pretty fun. But I actually think it's reasonably similar in overall power here to the Archer, so I'm actually going to put her in B tier as well. Okay, so the Cleric is a really interesting character, also a very powerful early game character. Because of the way the main attack works, it has really high base damage, but it will spread its damage across all the enemies that it hits. This means if you're in a one-on-one encounter with an elite or a boss, you can absolutely shred them with the Cleric, making it a very strong early to mid-game character. Now, the Cleric, it doesn't necessarily have crazy defense scaling, but it also does get one of the most powerful traits in the game, the level 60 trait that gives you a big chunk of extra regeneration. It's a very strong trait, and for that reason, and the fact that it's a really powerful character, and it can scale up magic damage unlike anyone else in the game, I'm actually going to put it up here in A tier. For me, I think it is slightly above these guys. It has the fun factor for me, has the power, and the regeneration scaling is pretty out of control on this character. I don't know if you guys have tried doing regen stacking on this character. You can get it to like over 150 life a second, something like that. It's pretty crazy. Depending on your torment shard, you could go even more than that, depending on how many you have. So for that reason, I am going to put Cleric up here in 80. I think Cleric is a fantastic character in the game. Okay, so next up we have the Exterminator, which is the first of the elemental characters that we're going to talk about. So the thing that the Exterminator has going for it has really good defense scaling. It has defense scaling as it levels up. So it is pretty good as defensive option. However, unfortunately, the elemental damage in the game right now is one of the weakest. Not only that, the way fire currently works in the game, especially if you're going to go up high torment, especially if you're going to put shards into effect damage, you are basically going to one-tap yourself with the Scorched Hand using this guy. It's really unfortunate that it works like that at the moment, but I'm actually going to put Exterminator down here in C tier. Definitely has the fun factor. Watching the world burn on this character at low torment is really fun. However, I don't think the way the fireworks is necessarily the greatest early game, and it's definitely not a great late game character either. So I'm actually going to put it down here in C tier. Okay, the Norseman is up next, which is another elemental type character. Into this one is focused on frost, though. Now, I think the Norseman is a pretty good character overall because it has pretty good defense, regeneration, as all of its base stats are actually really, really good. The main attack here is pretty weak in terms of single hit damage, but it has really, really fast attack speed as well. So I think it's actually a step up from the Exterminate here. Can scale pretty well into the late game too. Early game, killing things with the main weapon can be a little bit of a struggle, but the Norseman has some pretty fun builds you can do, and I think I'm not sure. I think Frost is maybe what maybe one of the better ones in terms of the elemental damage types that you can set up. That being said, elemental damage in the game is not very good. The reason I'm putting it above is it has just way better base stats and stat scaling throughout the game. So we're going to put the Norseman over here in B tier. Okay, the Sage is up next, and the Sage is a really interesting character. It's one of the more unique characters in the game because of the way the main weapon works. You get to choose one of the abilities, one of the scroll abilities, as its main weapon. So it is really, really interesting. It also gets really good experience gain scaling compared to all the other characters, right? So you can boost the level even faster. To be honest with you, though, if you've completed a lot of your quests and you have the additional experience gain from that, it kind of negates the need to run any extra experience gain on this character, which kind of removes one of the big benefits that it has. I really do like the uniqueness of the Sage. However, the Sage has not one big problem, it has about three really big problems. Has very, very low HP, very low regeneration, very low defense, very low block. You die so quickly on this character. It can't go any higher than C, I think, in my opinion. I understand if you guys would want to put this higher because early game, the Sage can do some real nasty things. It's a pretty strong character for early game stuff, but as we scale up the Torment levels, this character falls off so hard, and you have to spec so much for defensive stuff to even make it work. So that's where we're going to put the Sage. So the Sorceress is up next, and the Sorceress is the Lightning user. So I do like the Sorceress, and Spark can be pretty fun, but the truth of the matter is this is one of the weakest characters in the game at the moment. Terrible defense scaling. The elemental damage just does not scale up very well in the game at the moment. Not only that, the higher torment you go on this character as well, it is a real struggle at times to get anything done. Some of the builds are really fun if you go low torment, and early game, it's okay, but to be honest with you guys, I think it's one of the weakest characters in the game at the moment. I'm actually going to put the Sorceress down here in D tier. Now, I can understand if you really, really like the character, you could put it up a tier if you really wanted to. But for me, I think the overall power level of this character is pretty low in the game right now, so I'm actually going to put it down here in D tier. Okay, so Shield Maiden is up next, and perhaps this might be a little bit controversial, but I don't think Shield Maiden is S tier anymore. I say anymore because I think the Shield Maiden was definitely S tier in the previous patch. However, the patch that landed earlier this year in February nerfed both block and defense, which was two of the things that made this character so, so strong. Yeah, it still is the best block scaling character in the game, but the defensive values have been lowered to a point where other characters can sort of get to a similar defense level. Now they can't necessarily get as much block, but block effectiveness when it's been nerfed this much is actually hard to really get it cooking at the high torment. If you're gonna go low torment, block is still pretty strong, but I'm also considering the fun factor in the early game. The Shield Maiden, in my opinion, doesn't feel super, super strong early game. It's not terrible, don't get me wrong, but the main attack, it just doesn't feel that great in the early game. As you go mid to late game, it's a very strong character. I'm actually going to put it all the way up here in A tier with the Cleric. Okay, next up is the Swordsman. Now, the Swordsman's an interesting character, has some fantastic builds you can do with physical damage, has really, really great health scaling. So this character also has some defense stuff going on, but is the best character in the game for scaling up your HP. It is the starter character. I think the main attack is pretty good, and there are some interesting builds you can do with just making big explosions and stuff like that. For me, the swordsman is a really, really strong and really consistent character. It is the starter character, so if it's a character that you played all the way through the game, I could understand that too. I think the character is strong enough all the way through the game. It has enough strong builds, and I'm gonna actually put it up here with these characters. Now, if you guys wanted to shuffle these around a little bit, I could totally understand that. You know what I mean? And if your favorite character is a Shield Maiden and you think I've underrated, I can understand. However, the next character, I think there's a couple of reasons that we have to put Landy up here in S tier above these other characters. Not only is it the strongest defensive scaling character in the game, it can do pretty much everything you want a character to do in this game, and it can do it while being basically invincible, which I think makes it the easily the S tier character in the game. What am I talking about? So the proficient stance level ups on this character, you can get 20% defense. You can, if you use your duplication tinctures on this thing, you can make your runs. You can be invincible in your runs pretty easily within the first couple of minutes. And I'm talking about high torment as well. And you do not require a crazy amount of shards to get this character online as well. Whereas some of the other characters, you do need a decent amount of shards before they really, really feel like they're really strong for higher torment. I think Landy is great all the way through, has some really, really fun builds. Definitely the strongest for physical damage and defense. That combination is really good, but also gets crit damage scaling as well to top it off. But not only that, the traits also give it more regeneration and more movement speed. This character is totally stacked. She's got absolutely everything you would want to crush this game, and that's the reason I'm going to put her up here in S tier. I think hands down has the best trait in the game. The 20% proficient stance, 20% defense is so good. It is so strong. That is one of the reasons, but it's not the only reason. I think the extra physical damage stuff this character can get away with, but the Landy can also do magic stuff with the grenades. Just quietly, the grenades that this character gets are fantastic as well. So this character has everything going for it, and I'm going to put her up here in S tier. So last but not least, the Warlock is down here. So the Warlock is actually a really fun character to use. I really like the Warlock. However, the Warlock is so weak. The Warlock has really, really bad defense, and unfortunately, summons are in a pretty bad spot. They're very, very weak compared to a lot of the other abilities in the game. I would say, maybe you could get this away with C tier. Maybe it's D tier. It's somewhere in this range. I'm going to put it down here. I think it's pretty weak, to be honest with you guys. I just think the late game scaling on this character is so bad that it's kind of like, man, and the early game doesn't feel that great. There is one build where you stack crazy amounts of regeneration and you go for maximum summons, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong, it's really fun, but it is not a powerful character. In my opinion, it's down here. You could maybe squeeze it up here, but I think these characters a little bit stronger. Sages, I think, a stronger offensive character. Exterminators is a stronger defensive character, and they both have the fun factor. I think this character has the fun factor too. Maybe you could move these around. Guys, this is where I've ended up. So Landy, I think, is absolutely S tier for the reasons already provided. I think Shield Maiden is a very close second. And then Cleric and Swordsman, I put them all here on A tier, as I think the Cleric and Swordsman are fantastic characters as well. They scale pretty well into the end game too. I would say the Cleric is, out of the four top here, is the least in terms of defense, but it has the highest regeneration. So Archer, Beast Huntress, and Norseman. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think the Archer and Beast Huntress maybe a little stronger than the Norseman, but Norseman has really great defensive scaling stuff, so it is what it is. I put Exterminator and Sage. Yeah, these characters, they're just not that strong as you scale into the end game. And then Sorceress and Warlock I put down here in detail. Man, I hope they buff summons. The summon items especially, they're so bad, man. They just don't do any damage, so... Guys, this is where we've ended up. If you agree, if you disagree, if you think I'm crazy, let me know with a comment down below. I'd be interested to know how you feel. Now, guys, there is a patch coming at some point that may change how I feel about the tier list here. If that happens, we will revisit it. But for now, this is where we've ended up. So Landy, I think, is clearly at the top. I think Sorceress and Warlock are pretty weak characters in this game. You could fiddle with this order a little bit, and I'd probably still be happy. But you know what I mean. That's where we're going to end it for today. Guys, if you enjoyed that video, hit like and subscribe. I'll catch you all in the next one. Let me know what you'd like to see for Halls of Torment in the future in terms of content. With that, I hope you all have a fantastic, amazing day. Take it easy.